is an excellent yogi hack for integrating breathing practices more easily into your everyday life. I always say that breathing practices, they can be really short and they're a very easy way for us to affect our nervous system. It can take 2 minutes, certainly less than 4 minutes in your day, and can have a very profound effect. So this isn't actually a breathing practice itself, but it's an adjunct, it's like an add-on, a way that we might use, or a tool that we can use in our breathing practices to help us manage them more effectively. If you're doing a breathing practice, and it could be almost any breathing practice, provided it doesn't require a specific mudra with both hands, it helps us to count the breaths. You'll find that if you're doing breathing practices, particularly ones where you're counting the number, counting the in-breath and counting the out-breath, and counting the spaces in between. For example, box breathing, you might breathe in for 4 and hold for 4 and out for 4 and hold for 4, which is an excellent practice. But say you want to do 2 rounds of 12, it quite quickly becomes very difficult to count the number of breaths that you've done whilst you're counting the breaths themselves, if that makes sense. But it doesn't necessarily have to be a counting breath. Maybe you're just breathing in long and breathing out longer as a way to calm the nervous system. But so you could use this, you can use this seated in a seated practice, but it's also a lovely tool to use if you wake up in the middle of the night and you're struggling to get back to sleep. So the practice it's the traditional finger counting method for pranayama. We tend to use the dominant hand, although because I use the dominant hand for a mudra, I've just realised, I didn't notice this before, but I actually use my left hand and I'm right-handed. So you can use either hand. I guess is what I'm saying. So if you look, a traditional pranayama is 2 rounds of 12 breaths is the way that I teach it. And if you look at the sections of your fingers, so these sections from between the knuckles, there are 12 of them. And the traditional method, or the method that I use, is to use a spiral. So you would do 1 breath with the tip of your thumb touching the first section of that finger. You take 1 breath, you count that breath. And then on the second breath, you move the thumb to the next section along that finger, all the way to the end, so the next breath would be there. And then you work your way with each breath, you go in a spiral. So you come back in, and then you would end on one of the center sections. So you go all the way around the outside, and you would end on one of the center sections of your finger. So there are instances where you might not do that, particularly if it was a very spiritual practice. If it was a chant, you were invoking, some deity, and then, or if you're just generally using it as a spiritual practice, you might only do 11. And the thinking is that last space that you don't use is the space where God, or the spiritual goddess, or whatever it means to you, that allows space for the spiritual element to come into the practice on that empty section of finger. But that's just almost a side note. So for example, quite often at night, if I wake up in the night and I'm struggling to get back to sleep, I will do 12 breaths, move my thumb round in a spiral, and then you pause on that last one, and then you go back round, and that would make 24 breaths. When I do that in the night, very, very rarely will I get all the way back round to 24. I've now doing just breathing in for 4 and out for 7 or 8, for example, is a nice breath to do if you're trying to get back to sleep. But it also, if you were to use it during the day, whatever your intention is behind the breathing practice, it could be an energizing breathing practice, a calming breathing practice, or any other number of goals that you might have. It's a really simple way. You don't have to be faffing about with phones and setting timers or anything like that. So typically 12 breaths, 6 breaths would take about 2 minutes, 12 breaths would take less than 4 minutes. So you can do a full round in under 4 minutes if you're doing a very slow breath. You could do 2 rounds in, say, between 5 and 8 minutes would be 2 full rounds. So it's a really simple way to bring a bit of yoga into your life, a bit of pranayama into your life. And the breath is a phenomenal tool for helping us to manage our nervous system. So I hope you find that useful. There is an image. I'll see if I can share a link below the video to an image with the finger sections. And I hope you find it useful. Please do comment below. I would love to hear about your experience with that practice, or if you know any variations on it. I would love to hear about it. Thanks very much. Have a great day.